Motorcycle showroom floors are currently cluttered with brand new inventory that customers are refusing to touch, forcing dealers to stack steep discounts just to move units. Between inflated prices, outdated tech, and niche styling that miss the mark, these machines are sitting on showroom floors for months on end. Here are 12 motorcycles dealers can't get rid of, and exactly what's going on. Number 12, BMW R18. The BMW R18 is the motorcycle equivalent of a brilliant idea that arrived in the wrong room. BMW poured everything into it: an enormous 1800cc big boxer engine, gorgeous retro styling, and genuine German craftsmanship, then priced it deep into Harley territory and dared American cruiser buyers to switch teams. They mostly didn't, and that's the whole story sitting on dealer floors right now. What's actually going on is a painful mismatch between ambition and audience. Cruiser loyalty in America runs almost tribal, and asking a Harley faithful to trade their heritage for a boxer-powered BMW proved a bridge too far. The result has been brutal on resale and retail alike. Dealers have slashed prices repeatedly, sometimes carving well over $10,000 off original stickers, with bikes that once listed above $30,000 now advertised in the low 20s or even lower. When a machine drops that hard that fast, it tells you inventory simply isn't moving. None of this reflects poorly on the engineering. That massive boxer delivers a mesmerizing torque punch and a character all its own, and the fit and finish are genuinely lovely. But excellence doesn't guarantee sales when a bike is heavy, thirsty, slower than expected off the line, and fighting an uphill brand battle in a fiercely loyal segment. So dealers sit on units, offer aggressive customer cash, and wait for the rare buyer who wants exactly this. For the patient shopper, that's actually an opportunity, a beautifully built cruiser at a steep discount. For dealers, though, the R18 remains one of the toughest bikes on the floor to finally send home. Number 11, Indian FTR. The Indian FTR is the heartbreaker of this list, a motorcycle enthusiasts genuinely adored that still ended up gathering dust, and understanding why reveals one of the industry's cruelest ironies. Here was a flat-track-inspired naked bike with aggressive styling, a snarling V-twin, and a personality that critics loved. Yet Indian officially discontinued it at the tail end of 2024, and now dealers are left quietly clearing out the last remaining units. So what happened? The FTR was a fantastic bike caught in an awkward spot. Indian built its empire on cruisers and baggers, and the sporty, upright FTR appealed to a completely different rider, one who was more likely to cross-shop European nakeds than walk into an Indian showroom. That mismatch between product and customer base meant sales never justified the investment, and the brand chose to refocus on the Scout and touring lineups that actually pay the bills. Now the FTR carries the double burden of being both slow-selling and out of production. Dealers are marking leftover 2024 models down dramatically, some sport versions dropping to around $12,500 new, yet buyers hesitate, spooked by questions about future parts and support for a discontinued machine. It's a self-reinforcing problem. Discontinuation scares off shoppers, which leaves more unsold units, which deepens the discounts. For the American rider willing to embrace an orphan model, the FTR is a genuine steal with real character. But for dealers, it's a bittersweet reminder that even a beloved, critically praised motorcycle can become nearly impossible to move once the factory pulls the plug. Number 10, Yamaha Bolt. The Yamaha Bolt presents a fascinating puzzle because this isn't a bad motorcycle at all, it's simply a bike the market quietly wandered away from, leaving dealers with units that linger far longer than they should. Once celebrated as a stripped-down, urban-friendly bobber with genuine soul, the Bolt now sits on showroom floors as the cruiser world reshuffles around it, and the reasons say more about timing than talent. Here's what's going on. Yamaha let the Bolt coast for years without meaningful updates, and in a segment that moves fast, standing still is a slow death. Starting around $8,900, it suddenly found itself squeezed from both directions, undercut by ultra-cheap lightweights that hook new riders and outclassed by feature-rich machines offering more technology for similar money. That awkward middle ground is exactly where bikes go to gather dust. The dated feel is the real culprit. Walk-in shoppers increasingly gravitate toward fresher styling, modern displays, and newer engines. And the Bolt's honest, no-frills approach, once a virtue, now reads as old-fashioned to buyers spoiled for choice. Dealers respond by discounting heavily and reordering cautiously, which is why you'll often find one marked down and waiting in a quiet corner. The frustrating part is that the Bolt remains genuinely good, with a torque win, bulletproof reliability, and a canvas begging for personalization. For the right rider, it's a bargain with real character. But for dealers, it's a lesson in how quickly a solid, unchanged motorcycle can slide from steady seller to stubborn floor-dweller when the market simply moves on without it. Number 9. Harley-Davidson Pan America. The Harley-Davidson Pan America tells one of the most surprising stories in this entire countdown, because by almost every objective measure it's a triumph, yet certain dealers still struggle to move it. When Harley shocked the world by building a genuine 150-horsepower adventure bike, the industry expected a punchline. Instead, reviewers raved. So why does it sometimes sit unsold at $19,999? The answer is pure brand psychology. Here's the heart of it. People walk into Harley showrooms wanting chrome, rumble, and open-road cruising, not a tall, rugged, off-road-ready adventure machine bristling with electronics. The very customers who trust the Harley name often aren't shopping for what the Pan America offers, while dedicated adventure riders, the people who'd actually love its capability, tend to head straight to BMW, KTM, or Ducati out of habit. The result is uneven. In some markets, the Pan America flies out the door, while in traditional cruiser-heavy regions it becomes an oddity dealers can't quite match to a buyer, prompting discounts and dealer cash to nudge it along. For the American rider bold enough to try an adventure bike wearing a Harley badge, it delivers enormous value. But for dealers wrestling with entrenched brand expectations, the Pan America proves that even a fantastic motorcycle can languish when it lands far outside what customers expect from the name on the tank. Number 8. Kawasaki Eliminator. The Kawasaki Eliminator is an unusual entry here because its struggle isn't about being unwanted, it's about being trapped in the most crowded, cutthroat corner of the entire motorcycle market. This is a genuinely likable little cruiser, modern, affordable, and easy to ride, yet dealers still find certain units stubbornly parked, and the reason comes down to brutal competition rather than any real flaw. Picture the battlefield. The affordable lightweight cruiser segment is absolutely swarming with strong choices, from Honda's beloved Rebel family to Royal Enfield's bargain twins and beyond. In that kind of dogfight, even a solid machine can get lost in the shuffle, and the Eliminator sometimes does. Dealers have already been slashing prices aggressively, with some units dropping toward $6,499 or lower, and heavy discounting like that is usually a tell that inventory is moving slower than anyone would like. What's really going on is a numbers game. When a shopper cross-shops 5 similar bikes at similar prices, brand loyalty, styling preference, and dealer proximity all tip the scales, and specific Eliminator trims occasionally end up on the losing side. That leaves dealers clearing stock at a discount, then hesitating to reorder at full allocation. The irony is that the bike genuinely deserves attention, with a peppy 451cc twin, a confidence-inspiring low seat, and modern touches at a friendly price. For the American rider hunting a bargain, that discounted Eliminator is a smart buy. But for dealers, it's a reminder that in a saturated segment, being good simply isn't enough. You have to stand out, and sometimes the Eliminator quietly doesn't. Number 7. Triumph Rocket 3. The Triumph Rocket 3 is a rolling spectacle, home to the largest production motorcycle engine on the planet, and that very outrageousness is precisely why dealers can't move it quickly. A 2400cc triple producing a monstrous wall of torque is the kind of thing that stops crowds in a parking lot, but stopping crowds and closing sales are two very different things, and the Rocket 3 lives squarely in that gap. The core issue is that this bike is gloriously, unapologetically niche. With pricing starting around $24,995 and climbing past $27,000 for the GT, It's a massive investment in a machine that appeals only to a small, specific tribe of riders who crave sheer, absurd muscle. Most buyers browsing a showroom want something practical, affordable, and easy to live with, not a colossal power cruiser that intimidates as much as it impresses. So the Rocket 3 sits, admired by many but purchased by few. There's also the sheer physicality of it. The bike's enormous size and weight make it daunting to newcomers and even some experienced riders, further shrinking the pool of realistic buyers. Dealers know a Rocket 3 might occupy prime floor space for months, tying up serious capital while waiting for that one rider who wants exactly this experience. When that buyer finally appears, they're thrilled because nothing else feels like it. But until then, the Rocket 3 remains a show-stopping conversation piece that generates enormous attention and painfully few signatures on the sales contract, making it one of the most spectacular yet stubborn machines a dealer can have on the floor. Number 6. BMW K1600B. The BMW K1600B is a masterpiece of engineering that most American riders will admire from a distance and almost never buy, which is exactly why dealers find it such a tough sell. This is a six-cylinder luxury bagger of extraordinary refinement, yet it exists in a corner of the market so narrow that keeping one on the floor often feels like a leap of faith rather than a sound business decision. The math is unforgiving, commanding well over $28,000 before options and climbing past $33,000 with the right packages. The K1600B asks a staggering sum for a German take on an American icon. In the bagger world, buyers overwhelmingly want a Harley, and convincing someone with that much money to spend to choose BMW instead is a rare victory. So the bike sits, quietly waiting while a fortune in inventory gathers dust. That's the real story here, capital tied up in a slow-moving flagship. Rather than keep one parked indefinitely, many dealers now treat the K1600B as a special order proposition, ordering it only when a committed buyer materializes. It's a defensive move born of experience, because nobody wants a $30,000 motorcycle depreciating on the showroom floor for a year. The frustrating truth is that the bike is genuinely sublime, boasting one of the smoothest engines in all of motorcycling and first-rate touring comfort. For the discerning rider who seeks it out, it's magnificent. But for dealers weighing space and dollars, the K1600B is a beautiful liability, a bike that dazzles everyone and gets bought by almost no one. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Sportster S. The Harley-Davidson Sportster S sits high on this list because it represents one of the most fascinating identity crises in modern motorcycling, a bike that alienated the very people it needed most. When Harley reimagined the legendary Sportster name with a liquid-cooled high-performance Revolution Max engine, it made a bold bet on the future. That bet, at least on dealer floors, hasn't fully paid off, and the reasons cut to the heart of what Harley buyers actually want. Here's the tension. Longtime Sportster loyalists cherish the old air-cooled tradition, the simplicity, the heritage, the unmistakable feel. When Harley replaced all of that with a modern, water-cooled powerhouse and an aggressive, forward-leaning stance, many purists felt betrayed and walked away. Meanwhile, newer riders eyeing the roughly $17,000 price tag often found more accessible or more familiar options elsewhere. Caught between disappointed traditionalists and hesitant newcomers, the Sportster S landed in no man's land. The consequence is a bike that draws curiosity but inconsistent commitment. Dealers report units lingering, and Harley's own strategic shifts have leaned back toward reviving the classic Sportster identity, which only underscores how the S struggled to win hearts. For the open-minded rider, it's a thrilling machine at an increasingly negotiable price. But for dealers, it remains a puzzle, a technically excellent motorcycle that too often waits for a buyer who never quite feels that it's a real Sportster. Number 4. Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. The Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello is a genuinely innovative, beautifully engineered Italian sport tourer, and it faces perhaps the loneliest challenge of any bike on this list, fighting for attention as a niche brand within an already niche category. Dealers can't move it quickly not because it's flawed, but because it's asking American buyers to take a leap of faith on a name most of them barely know. Consider the obstacles stacked against it. Moto Guzzi carries a small but passionate following in the United States, yet it lacks the mainstream recognition of Japanese giants or the aspirational pull of Ducati and BMW. Layer on a starting price around $15,000, climbing towards $17,700 for the S model, and you have a premium machine from an unfamiliar brand competing in the crowded sport touring space. For the average shopper, that's a lot of unfamiliarity to overcome, so many simply walk past. The telltale sign is the discounting. Dealers have been running promotions offering $1,000 off or attractive financing just to nudge the V100 out the door, which reveals how slowly it moves. What makes this especially unfortunate is that the bike is genuinely impressive, featuring Moto Guzzi's signature transverse V-twin, clever active aerodynamics, shaft drive, and real Italian soul. Those who take the plunge tend to fall in love with its distinctive character. But convincing enough riders to gamble on a lesser-known brand at a premium price remains an uphill battle. For dealers, the V100 Mandello is a beautiful, characterful machine that too often waits patiently for the adventurous buyer willing to stray from the familiar. Number 3. Suzuki Boulevard M109R. The Suzuki Boulevard M109R is a magnificent brute that time has slowly left behind, and watching it linger on dealer floors is like watching a former champion struggle to adapt to a changed sport. This is a genuine muscle cruiser, packing one of the biggest, most ferocious V-twins in the business. Yet the very traits that once made it a legend now make it a hard sell, and the reasons are a lesson in how quickly expectations evolve. At its core sits a colossal 1783cc V-twin producing around 123 horsepower of drag strip-style thrust, a motor built to thrill. But here's the problem. While the engine impresses, the rest of the bike has aged. The most glaring issue is the persistent lack of anti-lock brakes, a feature buyers now consider essential and one that even raises regulatory questions. When a motorcycle skips a safety feature that shoppers expect as standard, it gives both customers and dealers real pause. Uncertainty compounds the trouble. With ongoing questions about whether updated versions will consistently reach American showrooms, dealers grow reluctant to commit floor space, preferring to order the M109R only for the specific enthusiast who seeks it out. For the buyer who craves unfiltered power and doesn't mind the dated details, it delivers a thrill few can match. But for dealers, this once mighty king increasingly feels like yesterday's champion. Number 2. Indian Challenger. The Indian Challenger is a stunning example of a motorcycle that wins on paper and loses on the showroom floor, a bike whose sheer excellence somehow can't overcome the twin barriers of a staggering price and a fiercely loyal rival. Dealers wrestle with it constantly because everything about the Challenger is impressive except the one thing that matters most, getting a buyer to actually sign. Let's start with what's going on. Powered by the formidable liquid-cooled PowerPlus engine producing around 126 horsepower, the Challenger arguably outperforms the air-cooled baggers it competes against. But it carries a price that starts above $32,000 and can soar toward $45,000 for elite versions, an enormous sum that only a sliver of buyers can even contemplate. The frustrating irony is that those who choose it rarely look back, praising its power, comfort, and technology. But objective brilliance means little when the price ceiling excludes most shoppers and the competition enjoys such deep devotion. For dealers, the Challenger is a spectacular machine that too often lingers, proving that being better than the icon isn't the same as beating it. Number 1. Harley-Davidson Nightster. Topping this list is the Harley-Davidson Nightster, and its placement is fitting because no bike better captures the central theme of a machine caught in an identity crisis that leaves dealers scratching their heads. This was supposed to be Harley's accessible gateway, a modern, approachable entry into the brand. Instead, it became a motorcycle that satisfies neither the traditionalists nor the bargain hunters, and that's precisely why it so often sits unsold. Here's the full story. The Nightster runs a liquid-cooled Revolution Max engine, the same modern architecture that divides Harley's faithful. Purists who want the classic air-cooled rumble view it with suspicion, feeling it strays from everything they love about the brand. Meanwhile, its price approaching $10,000 gives budget-conscious newcomers pause because they can find plenty of capable, more affordable options elsewhere. The deeper issue is emotional. Harley sells feeling and heritage more than specifications, and a bike that blurs the brand's traditional image struggles to forge that connection. As Harley recalibrates around the cruisers and baggers that define its identity, the polarizing Nightster receives less promotional energy and quietly lingers on floors. For dealers, the Nightster is the ultimate cautionary tale, a technically solid motorcycle that, by trying to be everything to everyone, became difficult to sell to anyone, earning its place at the very top of this countdown. And with this, we have reached the end of this video. Make sure to like it and subscribe the channel for future upcoming videos.